Hello, welcome to the preview show of The Outside Fence. I'm your host, as always, Tristan Heffernan. With me, Stewart Balls-Brown, to drop all the goodness on Saturday's Derby Day meeting at Flemington. Balls, thanks for joining me. How's the stress levels, I guess, looking with 4 massive days of the Flemington Carnival on the way?
Yeah, it's not too bad at this stage, but yeah, I'm sure it'll build over the weekend, especially if it's a losing day Saturday. Then the chase will begin, I suppose, as they say.
It's an absolute marathon. Any advice for the punters out there on how to get through the 4 days unscathed?
Yeah, I'd say, well, there's plenty of races there, so you can sort of pick your spots a bit. Don't think you got to win it all, I suppose, on Derby Day. You can get, I suppose, a bit excited by the strength of the races on the day and I suppose the day itself, but yeah, there's always plenty of opportunities in Cup Week, particularly in those sort of lesser races, I suppose. And big fields generally means that you'll get a decent price about a winner. So just I suppose be nice and patient, and hopefully the winner comes.
Exactly.
And maybe pray as well. That might help.
Pray and don't chase. That's always my advice. Don't start chasing because that's when you get yourself in trouble. So. Good advice, Paul. Stay patient. Now, let's look at the track, the all-important track. You've been all on the weather. You've probably been all over the wind as well. What have we got in store on Saturday, do you think?
Yeah, so it was great to look at the weather and see that there isn't much rain about. So for the first time in what feels like forever, we're probably going to have a good track on Saturday. I'd say it obviously will start off on a good 4 and maybe there's some chance of an upgrade throughout the day, given that like Flemington drains so well, and there's a bit of wind around too. There's a strongish sort of south to southeasterly wind, so that would be pretty much a tailwind around the sort of that sweeping home turn. So it tends not to sort of have a massive effect on racing. Obviously, I suppose it'll be no disadvantage to sort of lead, but I suppose that's generally the case at Flemington when it gets a bit firm. So I'm working on the basis that we'll get a fair track on Saturday.
Excellent. We're going to look at 2 races here on the preview show. Just a quick note, we're going to be rocking 4 preview shows through the carnival, 1 for each of the days. So stay tuned to the Teach Me Horse Racing YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe and follow us there on Twitter, Teach Me H Racing. You'll know when these videos drop straight away. Tonight we're going to look at the Derby and the Coolmore Stakes. We'll start with the Derby. And I'll go and pull up the market here, Balls. There's been a bit of action in the early markets.
Yeah, there has been. Obviously, Young Werther was the early favourite and still just holds on to favouritism at the moment. But yeah, the top weight, or not top weight, but I suppose number 1 saddlecloth, Cherry Tortoni, surprisingly to me, has been quite heavily backed in this early stage of betting. I think it opened up around $6. But yeah, it's pretty much fighting out favouritism with Cherry Tortoni at this stage.
Indeed. Now we're going to go, and we always start looking at these races with a speed map. Very important to look at how the race is likely to be run and any advantages or disadvantages we can see off the map that we come up with, and keep that in mind as we attack the race. Here is the speed map. The first thing that struck us both, Balls, is the complete lack of pace in the race.
Yeah, there is very little speed, if no speed really on paper. So, it's very tricky doing a map for this race considering that factor. And also a lot of these horses, or pretty much all of them, are going to this sort of distance for the first time. So there's a bit of guesswork involved, I suppose a bit of educated guesswork involved. Kenzan from the Danny O'Brien stable's drawn the inside gate and the blinkers go on. So I wouldn't be shocked if it's sort of ridden quite aggressively and he probably ends up the leader. Not suggesting anything dodgy, I suppose, is involved, but does have a couple of stablemates in the race too who wouldn't be against a stronger tempo. So, I'm expecting it to lead. But, a lot of those spots are sort of up for grabs at this stage.
Okay, let's crack a deal. It is the on pacer really in the race, and most of these really haven't settled in the forward half in their careers so far.
Yeah, that's true. You'd think Let's Crack a Deal sort of has the map advantage over a lot of these horses, particularly those that are sort of settling in the back half of the field. it'll definitely be, you'd think, in the first sort of 2 or 3, whether it's sort of outside the leader or possibly tucks in for a bit of cover. The other horse who looks like getting a nice run, and possibly some may think I've sort of mapped it a bit close there, but Young Werther, I think, drawn 4, providing it jumps well, I wouldn't expect it to be too far away, considering a lot of those get-back horses are sort of drawn wide. So I'd probably suggest that they're ridden a bit negatively at this stage, but obviously look for any tactics changes that come through via the stewards with any of those horses going forward.
And one thing we should note at the 2500 at Flemington, there's a rather short run to the first turn. So these horses drawn wide, they'll be trying to get cover pretty quickly, and that might result in horses like Cherry Tortoni, especially from that outside gate, going back at the start to try and get in before that big sweeping turn.
Yeah, that's right. It's probably the worst start at Flemington, to be honest. They tend to sort of rush out of the gates, and very rarely you see them find their positions before the first turn there. So horses are inevitably caught wide and either have to sort of make a decision to work forward or sort of snag back.
Okay, we have talked before on the show about when the pace is drawn inside, that can lead to a softer tempo. So that might be the case for the Derby, but often these horses getting to 2500 for the first time, we can see some changes to the map that we can't really foresee on their lead-up form. Now we're going to look at 3 lead-up races here. First of all, we're going to go to the Drummond Golf Vase, which was run last week and won by Cherry Tortoni. We've got 2 runners coming through this race, Balls. Cherry Tortoni in the red with a white cap, who's about third last there in the field, and last in the blue and white with the red cap is Johnny Get Angry. You mentioned at the start that you were surprised by the money for Cherry Tortoni, so let's start with him and get your thoughts on him going into the Derby.
Yep, so yeah, based on this Vase run, I thought this was a good win. It was sort of full of merit. Sat at the back and came widest and was just too good for his opposition. He only just beat home Quay with a big margin to third. So, and I did think Quay sort of had an indifferent run in this race. He sort of found a bit of trouble early in the race, had a bit of a pest on his outside, didn't settle the greatest. So I thought his run was, if not, was probably no worse than Cherry Tortoni. Now, the thing that sort of puts me against Cherry Tortoni on Saturday is the likely firm track. This obviously was run on a soft track last week, and a lot of his best performances have been on soft ground. And also just that map, I'm assuming they go right back from the outside gate there. Obviously, if they go forward, they're probably going to risk being caught wide. So, yeah, right back from the gate up to 2500 is maybe some query as well. So I think there's enough factors there that put enough doubt in my mind that, Cherry Tortoni's one who's right in the market. I wouldn't say it couldn't win, but at the price, I'm definitely against it on Saturday.
Okay, not sitting on the fence there at all. What about Geordie Get Angry, who continues to find the line? He's going to pop up in another of these lead-up races later, but this is his most recent run, so we'll talk more based on this. He's reasonable odds. He's going to eat the 2500. Do you think there's enough zing in his legs that he can get into a place?
Probably not. Like, he's the sort of horse to be running on at the end of the Warrnambool to Melbourne bike race. He just keeps coming. The blinkers will go on Saturday, so they're sort of throwing the kitchen sink at him a little bit. He's obviously going to run the 2500 right out. He always looks like he's looking for it at a minimum. So I'm sure he'll run okay. He's likely he'll settle back because he's got no early speed, and then he'll run on in the straight. But yeah, I definitely think there's better chances than him. But I sort of also could see probably running a good 5th or 6th at best.
All right, beauty. Let's go to our second lead-up race. This was also over the 2,000 metres the week before the Caulfield Classic. There's a few runners coming through here. We've got Alvarado, the eventual winner, who is probably in about 8th position there in the bright green colours with the pinkish coloured cap. Out 3 wide on the track. We've got Let's Crack a Deals up second in the white and blue. Hit the Shot is just a little bit behind Alvarado. He's in all yellow colours. He's a bit obscured by a horse in red and yellow on his inside. Redwood Shadows back there as well in those blue and white Mick Price colours, second last. Tour of Duties in the Rupert Lee colours, I guess they are, the blue and yellow, about fifth in the middle, and Sech Wayo is just behind him in the light blue and green hoops. The old Ethiopia colours, I guess you'd call them. So there's plenty of horses coming through this race. The main point in this race is that it was a very, very slow tempo. So all these horses are coming off a really slowly run 2,000 metres, as opposed to the Vars, which was run a bit quicker. When we talked about this race on the Outside Fence review show, Balls, I seem to remember Alvarado was your favourite run in the race. So looking back at this, is he your favourite pick in this race coming through? Is he your favourite pick in the Derby coming through this race?
He's right up there. I'm finding it hard to split a few of these in this race. I did think he was the best runner in this race, as he settled back on a slow speed and he pulled a bit early and made that sort of long, wide run into the race and was strong enough sort of on the line and through the line. So he's definitely with a good chance. The other ones I liked out of this race were Let's Crack a Deal, who, as you can see just then, does plenty wrong in the straight after racing on speed, wants to hang in and toughs it out pretty well after sort of just before that mark, sort of looked in a bit of trouble. And then the best closer in the race is Hit the Shot down the outside there in the yellow colours. He's the sort of horse, he'll love Flemington, he'll love 2,500, and he'll keep coming.
Beautiful. Now I'm going to throw a couple of my personal thoughts at you here, Balls. First of all, I'm happy to take Let's Crack a Deal out of this race, being the on-pacer. Even though there was a slow tempo, I do like the way he stuck on and kept kicking. Is it possible that the market falls in love with the runner on horses as we go up in distance? But sometimes, especially with a slow tempo or a lack of pressure up forward, likely in the Derby, that it can actually suit the on-pace stayers who whack away and get their chance there?
Yeah, you definitely, if they do go slow in the Derby, then it's definitely an advantage. Let's Crack a Deal, I'd say, because he's going to sort of have the map advantage over the other two. But I suppose a lot of the time with Derbies, I don't tend to get too caught up in the speed of the race, given that all these are going to 2,500. I think it's more important sort of which horse will run 2,500, more so than I suppose if you're looking at a 2,500 metre race full of sort of well-exposed horses, it's more sort of map-orientated a bit. So, yeah, as I said, I'm finding it hard to split many of these, but as you said, you could split them if you want to sort of take the angle of you favour the map advantage of Let's Crack a Deal, then that's obviously a good point to split these horses.
Okay, and then we've got Hit the Shot coming down the outside. My concern with Hit the Shot is how long he seems to get going. In this race, he really took a long time to wind up. He hit the line really strongly. Now, you could argue that going to Flemington is going to be perfect for him with the big wide open spaces and the big long straight that he can really wind up. But is it possible in a race like the Derby he's still going to be giving up that start again to a couple of them who may just have a bit of a sharper turn of foot?
Yeah, that's his worry, particularly if they go very slow, that something who's a bit more dynamic could put a sort of a gap in him, and by the time he sort of hit top speed and really wound up, the race could be all over. So, yeah, that's probably his issue in the race. If he gets a bit of a genuine speed and it's a staying test, then that'll play right into his hands.
Okay, cool. We're going to go now and look at... Oh, I don't want to look at the Poisoned Stakes. We'll get to that one later. We're going to go to the Superimposed Stakes, which was won by Quay Quay, which is interesting for starters, given we've just discussed his run in the Vars. We get the race favourite Young Verta come through this race in the Danny O'Brien blue and white colours. We also get coming through here Alvarado. I'm going to just move this forward so we can see these horses a bit better. We get Alvarado coming through, obviously in those lime green, the pink cap. We get Johnny Get Angry, who's near the back in the red cap. And we've got Born to Succeed, who's at any odd price. But Young Verda's in there about 6th or 7th in those colours that Russian Camelot also wears. He's the basically favourite or equal favourite in the Derby. He's a bit unlucky in this run. The major talking point with this horse is he was scratched from the Vars, and now he comes here at his 3rd career start. What are your thoughts on this preparation?
Yeah, it's probably not ideal just looking at it, but given the stable he's from, Danny O'Brien, I'm more than comfortable that sort of he knows what he's doing and he's comfortable with this preparation. He said, as he said, since his horse started racing, a lot of the testing that he does on his horses determines that this horse is a real stayer and probably doesn't need a heap of racing. A naturally fit horse would have great lung capacity as well. So, yeah, I'm happy to trust Danny O'Brien. He knows what he's doing. And, as you see, the horse didn't have much luck in this race. Still did a bit wrong and finished off in the best last 200 of this race, strong through the line. Going off what Danny O'Brien's been saying and then going off this horse's 2 runs so far, it looks like 2,500 will definitely suit.
We only have to think back to the South Australian Derby when Russian Camelot was stepping sharply up in distance there. The market loved him and he bolted in, and I think that just shows that Danny O'Brien can do these unusual things with these stays. He's got a great property at Barwon Heads, and I think any other trainer I'd be really concerned about this preparation, but for some reason I've got a lot of confidence that Danny O'Brien's going to have him spot on. Let's think about last week in the Vars. What was the market before Young Verda was scratched with him and Cherry Tortoni? Yeah,
so Young Verda was around a sort of 240, 250 chance. Obviously he was a short price favourite there. Now you sort of get to this race, I suppose, and they're pretty much equal favourites at this stage. So, yeah, if you want to draw a line through that, you can. I suppose the other line you can draw out of this race is Alberado's run 3rd and come out and won the Caulfield Classic. Quay's won the race and then been beaten by Cherry Tortoni at Moonee Valley. So, obviously, if you're keen on Cherry Tortoni, there's your lines that you can draw to find it. Obviously, I've explained why I'm sort of against Cherry Tortoni on Saturday. As sort of, I suppose, forecast a bit earlier, I'm quite keen to be with Young Verda.
Okay, that seems a good point to bring up our recommendations on the race. So, I guess judging from our wrap of that last lead-up race there, the Superimpose, it's no surprise that we've both found Young Verda balls. What sort of price would you be happy to take? How short would he get before you start to get turned off by the price?
Yeah, $4 plus, I'd be happy to take. And I think you can get that at the moment. So I think if he sort of gets a bit below, if he gets sort of below that sort of 350 mark, then he's starting to become a bit short, given there's still those question marks on him, I suppose. But yeah, I think he's definitely the horse in the race with the most upside. The fact that his preparation, I suppose, looks a bit out of the box, probably gives you some premium on the price as well. So, very comfortably with him. And as we saw at the start with the map of the race, I think he's going to get into a lovely spot as well. And the winkers go on. So providing he sort of goes straight in the straight, I think he'll be winning the Derby.
I think if we think back to that Flemington run as well, the market was really strong with him. He was, from memory, falls into about 7-4. So I'm expecting Young Verda to be really solid in the market again. I think he's going to start a clear favourite. I'd be tempted to back him early, to be honest, on that basis. And one point we haven't made mention, Danny O'Brien has been very outspoken about the distance of the Derby in recent years. He really would like to see it come back from 2,500 metres to 2,000 metres, but he has said that this horse is a bit of a special case. He's very happy going to 2,500 with him. So I think everything points to Young Verda myself. Let's just look at a couple of the horses at longer odds. I would like to have a saver on Let's Crack a Deal. I think it's the on-pacer that really caught my eye and around double-figure odds. I'm happy to have a saver on him. Now, you've got 3 horses there that you're interested in. They all come through that Caulfield Classic. Maybe you could help us out on under which circumstances maybe you'd be looking to back one of those runners as well.
Yeah, I'm still yet to sort of make my mind up. There's some chance I only back Young Verda, to be honest, but Those three definitely interest me out of the Caulfield Classic. Probably hit the shot as much as the other two, but it's not by much. And yeah, I just want to, I suppose, do a bit more investigation into the race, and obviously just see how the conditions are on the day. Obviously, if it's sort of hard to make ground, and the vibe you're sort of getting from a lot of the trainers in the race are that their horses are going to go back, then obviously I'd probably promote Let's Crack a Deal there. Alvarado, I'm a tiny little query at 2,500. And obviously, young Verta has already beaten at home after doing a bit wrong at that 1,800. So, but I did like his run out of the Caulfield Classic. So, yeah, they're the three horses that I'm sort of most interested in as the main dangers to young Verta. Whether I back any of them, it's still up in the air.
Excellent. We've talked through the Cherry Tortoni risks. You're happy to be with him. I think he should be much longer odds.
Yeah, I don't think he should be equal favourite. Even the sort of $6 that he was, I still think that's probably a bit short. I probably wouldn't have him. I'd have him probably on the same level as those sort of Alvarado, Let's Crack a Deal, hit the shot types, sort of around that $7-8 mark. So yeah, at the current price particularly, I'm happy to bet around Cherry Tortoni.
Excellent. There's our preview of the Derby. We've had a fair bit of traffic in the comments in the last preview show. Get on there and leave a comment and tell us your thoughts pre-race. Always great to go and look back on and put your neck on the line before the race with your thoughts, and hopefully cover yourself in glory when the race is run. Let's jump across now to the Coolmore Stud Stakes. I'm going to bring up the market here. Big, strong field for this race. Really tricky race, and I guess that's reflected in the open betting market.
Yeah, it is quite open on paper. Obviously, September Run is the current favourite, coming off two dazzling wins down the straight in recent times. And you got the two Sydney Colts up the top, sort of pretty much sharing sort of second favouritism coming through, I suppose, races in Sydney. But outside that, obviously, it's a very open race, and personally, I've found it a very thin race, but the market's sort of saying there's more chances than I think there are.
All right, let's go to the speed map. Always a little bit tricky doing speed maps for these straight races, but I think you've come up with it pretty well here, Balls. What do you expect the speed? Do you think Anders and Farnan are going to match Motors, or are they maybe going to try and hold them up a bit to get this 1,200 metres?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Given, I suppose, the normal pattern down the straight is that they hold up and then sprint home, which isn't really a style of both these horses, particularly Anders. So it's going to be interesting to see the tactics. The straight's not really the best course for a horse who likes to go lickety-split and sort of put a gap on the opposition and hold on late. So it's going to be very interesting. I'd be surprised if the speed sort of plays any determining in the result as far as advantaging or disadvantaging any of the horses. So I think it's more the sort of placement of these horses down the straight. Obviously, Wild Roller's another horse who shows plenty of speed, so you can just sit off them. But yeah, I think it's more the fact of who can find who's back, who can get the best run in the race, and then possibly even find the right lane.
Speaking of lanes, is there any particular part of the straight you expect them to come down?
At this stage, I'd probably assume they just come down the middle like they usually do. To be honest, there hasn't really been any sort of hard and fast lanes down the straight of recent times. At Flemington, horses have been able to win sort of coming up underneath the horses or even a bit out wider. So, yeah, and given it's Derby Day, they've had good weather in the lead up. I wouldn't really expect there to be any kind of significant advantage or disadvantage.
Okay, so those horses drawn inside, they may get their chance ducking back to the inside and rather than being hard up against the fence. But as always, keep an eye on the pattern and that'll tell the story. We've got 5 races here to review. There's a lot of different form lines, so that's not even going to cover them all. So at the end, we'll go through and just discuss a couple of the horses we may have missed out of the lead-ups. First of all, I'm going to pull up the Roman Consul Stakes from Sydney. This was won by Wild Ruler there in the red colours second, and Doubtland comes through this race as well. I think he seems to map all right, Wild Ruler, with the sit on the two speedsters. What do you think of his Sydney form, Balls?
Yeah, he's won his last two in Sydney. I'd say this is definitely a step up on what he's met in his last two races, but he's obviously won them both. He's been relatively impressive in them. In this race here, they've gone at a very slow speed, and it was very much a sprint home. I suppose a little concern with Wild Ruler out of this race, if you look at the late sectionals in the race, considering they have gone very slow in the race, he's actually only run the 10th fastest last 400 and the 17th fastest last 200 of the meeting. And the second horse there on the lead sort of was only fair last week in a race up in Sydney as well. So, yeah, there's definitely queries around Wild Ruler's form. He's from a good stable, the Snowdens. They've obviously would have targeted this race from a while ago, I assume. So, yeah, he's a hard horse to put the pen through, but I think he's very much short enough in the market, to be honest.
Okay, and Doubtland comes through this race as well. Now, Doubtland did win down the straight. I think it was the Danehill Stakes earlier in the season. This was a firm track. Is a firm track a negative here for Doubtland?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think he's had enough starts now that we've sort of built a bit of a profile on this horse, and he definitely performs better with some juice in the ground. So it looks highly unlikely he'll get that on Saturday. So, yeah, I think Doubtland's just making up the numbers on Saturday.
Okay, let's go. We'll skip through these ones. The second race we're going to look at is this 3-horse Blue Sapphire Stakes, which was a incredibly confusing race. The speed we talked about Anders on the show actually, and about him running along sort of a few lengths in front of the field. The other two stayed with him, but that didn't mean he went slow. They seem to have gone very, very quickly in this race. We've got Anders on the inside in the orange, and Ranting also comes through this race. He's 3 wide and the eventual winner. What do you make of these two horses heading towards the Coolmore?
Yeah, as you said, this was just a bizarre race, really. Like, I don't think I've ever seen a 3-horse race like it, where they've just been stretched across the track for the whole race. All honours with Ranting, as it's sat wide and probably looked gone in the straight, but it was tough enough to beat the other two. I suppose the interesting factor out of this race, and once again, it just shows how bizarre this race was. These three, they've gone that hard that these 3 horses have actually run the slowest last 400 and 200 of the whole meeting this day. So there was 2,400 metre race on the card. There were stayers going round. These 3 have managed to run the slowest last sectionals of the meeting. So it's they finished so close together as well. It's sort of hard to draw too much from this race, to be honest. I tend to think, personally I'll be going around this race, but I tend to think Ranting is definitely the horse to take out of the race. And I suppose the other little issue out of this race would be it's such a hard run for these horses because they have gone so hard and staggered home. You wonder whether it's taken a lot of petrol out of the tank of them. They've obviously had a decent enough break into this, but it's just that's some little query. But yeah, I'll definitely favour Ranting over Anders in the Coolmore. And just on Anders. Given his racing style, I suppose in Sydney he was best known for scooting around that Rosehill 1100 or 1,000 metres around a bend, really putting a hole in his opposition and then not being able to catch him. I just don't think straight racing will suit his racing style. I tend to think it suits horses with, I suppose, superior turns of foot, those that it's sort of a hard track to lead by a significant margin or go hard and hold off the opposition. So I'd be very surprised if he can lead all the way. And he's definitely a horse I'm risking in this race. Okay,
I agree with you here on Ranting. I'm going to take it on face value that he was 3 wide all the way. They almost seemed to drop him on the turn, but he just kept coming, and his will to win, especially given that was his first ever win, I was quite impressed with. And I think we've also seen him run well down the straight before, Ranting. He hasn't really run a bad race. I am a little bit concerned, like you, how he backs up out of this race. But yeah, I was quite taken by his will to win there, Ranting. And I agree with you on Anders. He's not on my radar at all. Let's go across to the Poseidon Stakes after I had a little false start on it earlier. Only one horse to look at here, but it's a pretty important one. This is the race favourite, September Run. We've got her last in the red and green colours. Do you think she's a deserving favourite, Bowles?
Yeah, I definitely do. As I've mentioned before on the show, I love straight form for straight races, and this horse has won its last two down the straight in brilliant fashion. So just on this race, they've gone at a fast speed, which generally means they sort of don't get home too hard, and the late sectionals generally aren't too quick. They have gone at a fast speed here, and as you can see, September Run's come all over the top of them. Is quite a dominant winner. And has actually run the fastest last 600, the third fastest last 400, the sixth fastest last 200 of the meeting. So that was a very impressive effort for me. And then the start prior, when it won down the straight, ran the fastest last 600, 400 and 200 of the meeting as well. That was off a slow tempo though, but it ticks a lot of boxes here. Craig Williams sticks, drawn an outside gate to sort of suck back and get a nice bit of cover as well. I'm quite keen on September Run in this race, given all those factors.
Okay. Playing devil's advocate here, the field she beat in this race, obviously none of them come through to the Coolmore. Is there a query on the strength of that form? And is it in fact that the times she ran there, which is proving more of a basis for your fondness of this filly as opposed to the strength of the opposition she's been beating in the last couple?
Yeah, she definitely hasn't beaten the cream of the crop in this race here. The start prior, she did beat Swats That, who's obviously performed well since and is in this race. So I suppose that's a tick for her form. But yeah, I'm more going off her times, the impressiveness of her sectionals. She's done it in fast run races and slow run races as well. So she's quite versatile. And yeah, she's obviously done it down the straight as well. So we know that she loves the straight. And she does go to 1200 sort of for the first time this prep, I suppose, or for the first time down the straight. But as we mentioned, that strength through the line in these last two races, I don't think that'd be an issue for her.
All right, we'll just run that through past the line there. Okay, let's go and look at some more fillies that, especially one of them in the market here, and that's Swats That. We're looking here at the Thoroughbred Club Stakes. Swats That, he's got a beautiful position here, third, just trailing the leaders, and Montesira also comes through this race. She's on Swats That's back in the yellow and blue colours. What are your thoughts on these two horses' chances here, Balls?
Yeah, I think they're both got a chance in the race. I'd favour Swats That over Montesira, but if you give Swats That a good chance, you have to include Montesira somewhere. Considering they're pretty close in their SPs in this start, and Montesira hasn't run poorly. But yeah, as you mentioned, Swats That did receive an excellent run this race just off the leaders, and as soon as she found that spot, she was always going to be mighty hard to beat. It was sort of only sort of a steady speed, but she's got a very good turn of foot and sprinted home sharply there to win. It was the seventh fastest last 200 of the meeting, so it was a good day. That was Caulfield Guineas Day, so obviously some good horses running on that day. So that was a good performance. Montesira's run it to about sort of a length or 3/4 of a length there, so wasn't far away. But Swats That does have form. Obviously, we mentioned behind September Run three starts back at Flemington down the straight, so she has run well down the straight as well. And you can make an argument that day that sort of John Allen, who rode her, sort of erred a bit in not seeing September Run back over on the inside and possibly left his run a bit late. But if sort of a horse like September Run's in the frame, then you got to have Swats That somewhere thereabouts.
Off the top of your head, can you remember the SPs from that clash?
Yeah, well, September Run would have been, I think it was near 20-1, whereas Swats That was sort of close enough to favourite.
Okay, that's an interesting an interesting line to take there as well. One more lead up, not so much a race this time, but we're going to, it looks nice and crisp there, early morning Flemington jump outs. It's going to be hard. Well, let's just run the tape so they get a bit closer. There's a number of runners in this race that came through this jump out, so I'm going to leave it to you to point it out for the viewers here, Balls. Who can we keep an eye on?
Yep, so we've got Farnan, who's the horse on the outside fence there in the bluish colours. We've got Wild Ruler, who's in the predominantly red colours, who ends up winning the heat. We've got Swats That, who's over closest to the inside behind that other runner, who's in sort of black colours. We've got Flying Award, who's in predominantly green colours. And then we've got September Run, who's in those Chris Waller, Rangy Rang Do colours with the purple sleeves and the black and white checks as well.
Okay, so September Run's probably second from the outside there, and Flying
Yep.
Awards just on her inside. So let's run this through, because the first horse, we've talked about a few of these, Wild Ruler, Swats That, September Run. Let's talk about Farnan, because he's arguably the most interesting runner in the race. You've had a bit of a love-hate affair with Farnan on the show already, Balls. You successfully called that he wouldn't end up taking his place in the Everest, but I don't think you would have thought he got through to the Coolmore Stud Stakes on that theory either.
No, I had retirement on the cards for fun, and I suppose we're not at the race day yet, so it's still we can still hang on to that a little bit. But not a lot of these horses none of them are really under pressure. They're all sort of, I suppose, there more for a day out. Farnan's gone okay. It was a bit weird. It sort of settled off the speed there. So I don't know if that's a sign of things to come, but it'd be very unlike, I suppose, the Waterhouse stable to do that. But we obviously wait to see if there's any tactics changes, but at this stage I'd assume it'll resume its normal racing style. Obviously, the only run it had this preparation was up in Sydney in the Run to the Rose, and it went far too hard in front before tiring. So I'd probably had an excuse there. It's had a few issues since. It's had a trial at Gosford as well that was sort of quite impressive, but it didn't really beat much there. I suppose the concern, obviously, with Farnan is that its first up run, it sort of tied very badly. And also there was a few yard watchers prior to its, or I suppose at its first run, saying the horse really hadn't grown from its 2-year-old days as well. So that's always a concern when a horse goes from 2 to 3. So it's a hard horse, I suppose, to price in this race, considering it was the best 2-year-old in the country last year, but we've only got sort of one run to go off here. I tend to be risking it at the current price. I'd want to see it sort of do something again before I get involved. But the betting with it will be very interesting on Saturday. I'd be probably surprised if it wasn't a drifter in the market.
Interesting. I did notice. I'm going to pull up the market. I did notice that the Top Sport are actually keeping it quite safe there at 480, and we got a top price of $6 over at Bet365. So you're taking a fair leap of faith if you're looking to back Farnan, who's close enough to favouritism in the race. The other horse we have got in this jump out that we haven't discussed yet is Flying Award, in the green with the white stripe in the middle of the pack there. Now, this is a horse that everyone was really keen to tip for races like the Caulfield Guineas and the Cox Plate even. Returned nicely at 1200, failed badly at 1400, pulled up with an issue. They've freshened and they've come back here. Do you give this horse any chance, Flying Award?
I think he's a bit of a blowout chance in the race. Obviously, personally, I've always had a bit of an opinion of the horse. Nothing went right last start in the Guineas Prelude. He was sort of out the back on soft ground and never got into the race. Subsequently, sort of pulled up a bit sore, I think, and the rider mentioned he heard a respiratory noise as well. So I'm happy to put the pen through that run. He'll get back onto firm ground on Saturday. I didn't mind this jump out here. He sort of looked fresh enough, and he wasn't really put under any pressure. He's the sort of horse to be very strong at the end of the race. Damien Oliver sticks as well. The blinkers go on, so there's a bit there to make a case for the horse. And I think he's sort of around that $26 mark, which sort of the longer priced horses in the race does sort of stand out to me as a horse that wouldn't be the worst horse to sort of have a few shekels on.
Okay, that's a good pointer to go back to the market now. As you were right, $26 in a number of places there, Flying Award. Let's just run through the field of the others that we haven't mentioned. Mamaragan, huge odds. Any at all?
No, I haven't seen enough from it this prep. It's been sort of well beaten in all its runs, and it's coming back from a Caulfield Guineas as well. So, yeah, I'd rather back horses that have been targeted for this race more so than it's been an afterthought.
Okay, now the one really interesting runner that we haven't discussed is Glenfiddich. Obviously, I was really high on this horse, looking for Caulfield Guineas Cox Plates for him. But after he won the Stud Stakes, he had a minor breathing issue and some surgery to correct that, and he's been freshened up here for the Coolmore Stakes. Initially, that just sounded like a pretty wishful prep, but his trainer Peter Mooney is extremely bullish on his chances and thinks he's a high-quality colt who's capable of handling the dropping distance in this race. What are your thoughts on Glenfiddich's chances?
Yeah, he's a bit of an unknown runner in the race, given, I suppose, the prep he's had. I would have liked to have seen a jump out or a trial or something since his last start, just to sort of make sure the surgery was okay and sort of just to see how he was going. Personally, the way I do form, he's sort of a hard horse for me to find, really, because I'm sort of looking to sort of line things up and a horse that ticks a few boxes. So, yeah, he's not a horse I can find, but, I'm wary of Peter Moody's comments, and I'm wary that, the horse has obviously got plenty of ability. He's a very interesting runner, really.
Yeah, I'm obviously a huge fan of the horse. I've sort of half talked myself around. I do like him 1,200 down the straight here. I think he can settle pretty close to the speed, and I do think that the form through his run at weight for age over 1,400 metres, he returned really good figures there. I think, I think we'll find him in my numbers when we get to our tips and recos a little bit later in the show. We'll quickly go through the rest. Hollyfield, Extra Time, Our Playboy, they're all big odds. Can you make a case for any of them?
No, I can't.
No, beauty. We can move towards our tips now. And, there you go. He's turned up in mine, Glenfiddich. We'll start with you, Balls. September Run and Flying Award snuck in. You've grown a leg there. Just going with the obvious here in September Run.
Yeah, I think she's a massive box ticker in this race. Love the prep for this race. Love the setup in this race. Great stable, great jockey. I think, as I said, ticks a lot of boxes, and I think she's actually not a bad price at the moment, to be honest. Flying Award. I just think around that $26 mark. He's not a bad horse to sort of throw something on, considering. I think if you sort of take out last start, his first up run at 1,200 was excellent at Caulfield. I think the straight will suit, and obviously his trainer knows what he's doing when it comes to straight races as well. So I didn't mind his effort in that jump out against a lot of these as well. So, I think he's sort of over the odds at the moment.
Okay, you've got Swats that in your interested section. What would get you really interested for Swats that?
Yeah, probably price-wise closer to, say, $15 if she got out sort of that far, maybe $12, $15 around that mark. Obviously, got form around September Run and got the SP over September Run from that run, I suppose, 2 or 3 starts ago. So, I think if you like September Run, then Swats that sort of has to be thereabouts. And she's done nothing wrong in the 2 subsequent runs since. So, it's a horse that sort of interests me as well.
Okay, and you're particularly against, you're almost the anti-Richard Friedman here, you're particularly against the Sydney runners, Farnan and Anders. Or do we call Anders a Sydney runner? He's been bouncing around.
Yeah, I'd call him a Sydney horse. Most of its best form has been up there. But, I'm happy to risk Farnan and Anders in this race. So, decent chance to end up with egg on my face come Saturday night after Cherry Tortoni wins the Derby and Farnan and Anders run 1-2 here. But, got to put the neck on the chopping block.
Absolutely. All right. Personally, I'm going with Glenfiddich and Ranting, both at genuine double-figure quotes. September Run did look the obvious to me, but well found. I'm a bit with you. I couldn't really come into Farn and Anders. I think Wild Rule is well found as well. So I don't have as much confidence in this race. I'd much prefer the Derby as a betting race, but forced to have a bet, I'd have a little bit at the longer odds on Glenfiddich and Ranting and can't do too much damage if I'm wrong. We've got a little bit of variety for the viewers there, Bowles. That's 2 races down for the preview show. That will wrap us up. Thanks, as always, for your time. Thanks to all the watchers and viewers. Give us a like, give us a subscribe. Let us know who your tips are in the comments. Let us know what you agree with and what you disagree with. You may even point something out and give us a hand that we've missed. Always much appreciated, and feel free to get a bit loose in the comments. It was really good reading last week, so well done to everyone who was involved there. Balls, we're going to be back. I don't think we're going to do a review show. We might leave that for the end of the carnival. We might do a carnival review show, but we're going to come back on Sunday if you're still with us for the Melbourne Cup preview. That's going to be a monster. Always a very hard race, but we're going to give it a crack on most likely Sunday night. So good luck on the punt to you and everyone watching on Saturday, and I'll speak to you on Sunday night. Hopefully you'll be in a good mood and we can go through the Melbourne Cup.
Thanks, Hef. Yeah, look forward to Sunday night.
Beauty. Thanks, mate. See you later.